The Miami Heat, this past week hasn't been the best for them. They're on a 4-game losing streak at the time of this recording. They now have fallen to the 2nd seed. The 4 games have been the Nets, the Knicks, the Warriors, the Sixers. And this season, the Heat have had 5 3-game losing streaks. So this isn't their first skid. We all saw the viral video of Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem getting into it. Udonis Haslem said to Jimmy Butler, "I'd beat your ass."
Clown.
And they got into it. Even Eric Spoelstra asked Jimmy Butler if he wants to fight him.
That was crazy.
In the middle of the game.
Miami gets crazy.
I want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think that the Heat right now are imploding? And Drew, you have said all year that you're not a believer in the Heat. So I want to hear from you first.
All right, say no more. This 4-game losing streak specifically has been a tough one. Against Philadelphia, no Harden, no Embiid, they lose. Against the Golden State Warriors, no Clay, no Steph, no Dre, they lose. Lose to the Knicks. I don't have to say anything else there. And then you get smoked by the Nets last night. It's been a tough road for them, and the reason why I have been skeptical about the Heat as a whole is because I can't trust their offense. In terms of, I don't know if they have the firepower to compete against top teams in the East that are not only great defensively, but also great offensively. Milwaukee Bucks, the Celtics. I'll throw in the Philadelphia 76ers. And for the matter of fact, I'll also throw in the Brooklyn Nets, who they could potentially face in the first round of the playoffs. The way things are shaking out right now, the Nets are having everything perfectly aligned where now Kyrie Irving's allowed to play in home games and away games. And so you have to look at the fact that now the Nets are most likely going to be the 7th seed and are going to be playing against the number 2 seed, which is right
Kyrie
now.
Can play in Canada, though.
Yes, but Toronto's the 6th seed right now.
Oh, so you're projecting that they'll stay there
Correct.
in Cleveland. Okay.
Correct. So there's a possibility where the Heat might have to play the Nets in that first round. And there's a strong chance that the Heat get bounced in the first round. As much as I look at their team defensively, and I have to give them that credit where credit is due, offensively, I have had my reservations, and I will continue to have these reservations on a team where Jimmy Butler down the stretch, he goes ghost at times, especially this season. And I give him the benefit of the doubt. He's been struggling with injuries this season, 5 sprained ankles, which is crazy to really think about. But he's had his struggles. Bam Adebayo's inconsistent offensive play. He's amazing defensively, no doubt about it, but he's been inconsistent offensively. And then Kyle Lowry, who's been, to a degree, a shell of what the Heat had expected going into this season. He's really been a letdown to a degree. And Tyler Hero, to an extent, coming back to reality where he hasn't been as efficient, as dominant as he was earlier in the season. And, of course, it's when it matters most, coming down the stretch of the regular season where you're fighting for those top seeds, you're trying to gain some confidence in preparation for the playoffs. So are they starting to implode? I don't know if I would go as far to say implode. They've had great team chemistry for the past couple of seasons, but in terms of my confidence level in them, it's still the same as it's been throughout the entirety of the season. I'm not high on the Heat, and there is a strong possibility they can get bounced in the first round.
I was never high on the Heat. Never believed in Heat. Didn't think they were title contenders. Joel, what did?
Title contenders is
I
nuts,
never thought
man.
they'd come out the East just because of the simple fact that Jimmy Butler's their best player offensively. I didn't think relying on guys like Tyler Hero, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, however you say his name, was going to work. They've been one of the worst teams in the league in efficiency in this stretch. They've been sloppy. They've been turning the ball over defensively. They haven't been themselves.
For sure. I
don't want to say Kyle Lowry has been a shell of himself. I just think he's been in a role
of what they've expected from him.
I think he's playing a role, and it's like he's kind of like succumbed to what he's used to. But I'm not going to really go too deep into Kyle Lowry because it's been a team thing.
Sure.
Jimmy Butler has been struggling defensively. The team hasn't been there. Spo has to get it together. Do I think they're imploding? No. Do I think the Nets can beat them? Duh. I thought it when the Nets were struggling. I thought it when the Nets weren't struggling. I think the Nets can beat anybody. But I also think Miami doesn't. Miami is such a weird team because in the regular season, they're going to be great. They're going to be great. But in the playoffs, star power usually tends to win out. And in a lot of series, they probably have the weakest star, not saying Jimmy's trash or nothing like that. So they have a group of role players that's really good, that fits the system. But when you have a group of role players, you need that guy. It doesn't matter how good your role players are. You need that guy. Kobe Bryant had great role players. He was still that guy. LeBron, when he won, he had a great role players, was still
100%.
that guy. He still had those games where Caruso needed to step up. KCP, Kobe Bryant had Ron Artest, Pau Gasol, Derek Fisher hit some shots. You still need that guy to eventually win it all for you. And I don't think the Miami Heat have that guy.
The Miami Heat right now are imploding. This has been a ship that I've been on that
Oh my God.
You couldn't even finish the season with him.
that right now I'm jumping ship. I'm jumping off the ship.
Respect.
And this is the reason why. I love their depth. I love their tenacity. The DNA they have defensively, I loved it to begin the season. But I think injuries ruin the Heat. I think too far often this season they've been playing with multiple guys. I think their main core didn't get enough play together this season, and now that they're all, for the most part, together, you can kind of see these stretches of offensive inconsistency. They lost against Philly without Embiid and without Harden. They got outscored by 6 in the second half. They lost to Golden State, outscored by 14 in the second half in a blowout loss without Steph. And then against the Knicks, they blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter to a Knicks team without Julius Randle. Emmanuel Quickley had 20 points in the fourth quarter alone.
Yep.
And he beat them himself. I look at the Heat, and defensively, I really don't have much concerns, but it's really offensively where I'm really concerned. In crunch time, and for those out there that's watching, crunch time is measured by a game within 5 points in the last 5 minutes of the game. They get outscored by 8 points per 100 possessions in crunch time. They have the 5th worst offense in crunch time at 98.4 points per game per 100 possessions, which is trash. That's one of the least efficient offenses in the NBA. And Tyler,
in the stretch or just in the season?
In the season.
Okay.
And Tyler Hero leads the team in fourth quarter minutes and scoring.
Yikes.
I love Tyler Hero. I don't know if he can be your main option going into the playoffs in the fourth quarter.
For sure.
Kyle Lowry is somebody that I don't have much faith in. I think he's getting older. His age is showing. We've seen before in the playoffs, even in his prime, he disappears in games. Jimmy Butler has always been good and steady in the playoffs, but he's never been a superstar or exceptional or elite. And I think the bubble run, more specifically the finals, his finals performances really flawed the way, or really skewed the way people view Jimmy Butler, because he's not that type of player. Bam Adebayo still has his offensive inconsistencies. And you're right. You can't really rely on role players, and this X factor I've been thinking could be Victor Oladipo all year. He's averaging 6 points per game. He's played in 6 games. He's been inefficient. He's coming back from an injury. But I don't know, with 3 weeks left in the season, if he can make a proper comeback and be himself again. Mm-hmm. And even then, Oladipo's not the same player he once was. Unfortunately, he's never recovered from his ACL injury that he suffered in Indiana. Not only do I think the Nets can beat the Heat, I think the Raptors can upset the Heat in the first round. They're 2-1 against them this year. Bam, Hero, and Jimmy Butler played in all those games. Kyle Lowry didn't play in those games. I think the Raptors can keep the game close. Defensively, their versatility, they can match up with Miami. And I think the Raptors can make a series against the Heat absolute hell, and they can upset them.
Yeah, bro. It just be left field sometimes. That take just took me left field, man.
But a lot's going in my mind right now. The fact that, obviously you were pretty high on the Heat, which is fine. People were high on the Heat.
Was that the take when you was like, it was going to surprise people?
No.
That wasn't even the take? Oh, my God.
It's just from one extreme to the other with you, which is why you kill me sometimes. But you know what? To a degrey,
Raptors can match up well against a lot of teams.
The problem with Toronto is their depth stinks. And they run their guys. Their 5 guys play a lot of minutes, and they're tired.
It's a great 5.
It's an exceptional 5.
Yeah.
It's one of the best 5s in the East.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they don't have any back end talent. You know what I'm saying? And
Thad Young is playing better.
Who'd you say?
Thad Young.
They got like this.
Achua is playing better too.
I think Bam. can have a real field day
He can.
in that series, because I think the problem with Toronto is they lack size.
He can, but
Bam and Siakam.
Oh, I think Bam will really give hell to Siakam. Honestly, I
think
really believe
that's
that.
He
kind of
can, but
underrating
this what I'm
Siakam and
thinking.
his
Talk to
play
me.
this season.
I think whether you put Siakam, Scotty, OG on Jimmy, they can neutralize him. I think Gary Trent's a good defender. I think Fred VanVleet is better than Kyle Lowry right now, for sure.
Easy. That's with my eyes closed.
Yeah, but I think
really, the series is going to come down to Pascal Siakam and if he can be
100%.
efficient in the playoffs.
That's such a fact. And I trust the way that Pascal's been playing this season. I trust that he can do that.
against Bam.
The thing is, Bam's a great defender, yes, but
I think they would put PJ on him.
His play is also
good
much
too.
more than just his scoring. Like a very underrated
That's the
part
same
of
with
his
Jimmy
game
Butler,
is
though.
facilitating.
I think the series
Say the
would
same
be a
thing about
dogfight.
Jimmy.
Pascal Siakam doesn't need to be the highest scorer in the series for them
You
to
can say the
get
same
past
thing
them.
for Jimmy Butler.
I disagree. He needs to be the highest scorer
Against
player.
Toronto?
Yes.
To beat Toronto?
Yes.
I don't think he needs to be the highest scorer to beat Toronto.
And, I was watching some post-game interviews from some of the Heat players, and they all, I think it was Lowry or Jimmy or Spoelstra. I don't know which one it was exactly, but I know one of them said that their DNA is to bounce back from things, and they've proven themselves. The Heat have just went on one run. The very next year, they got smoked out by Milwaukee.
This is their third year together.
This Miami Heat team,
This is a new team.
we don't know what they are.
Yeah.
They don't have a track record of proving that they're this elite, great team. They don't. This is a brand new team. This is a team that has to prove themselves. After being embarrassed last season, they have to now prove themselves.
I don't disagree.
Somebody said this, and I don't know what your take on it's going to be. They said this Miami Heat team feels like the 1990s Knicks. They're great defensively, but offensively, they're very bad. They're not good.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing at all. I've been saying this completely all season. I don't know how many times I've actually said that exact statement on this show.
I mean, in
At
terms of
least
like
20.
the tenacity, in terms of the way they play gritty, hard every night, I could see.
They don't have a Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, I could see the personality though. The
Yeah,
personality.
you
I
ask
see it.
Riv, they have Patrick Ewing. Bam Adebayo.
I'm not even gonna get into that.
I'm sorry, man. I'm just being honest.
Because I think Bam would lock Siakam. That's not a tall task. Like,
No,
let me not
it's
say that's
just
not a tall task.
your
But Bam
your praise for Bam.
he's an elite defender.
No, you treat him like he's the second coming of Christ himself
He's an elite defender.
with offensive play that is spotty.
Do you think the Heat are going to lose in the first round?
Yeah.
If they play the Nets, yes.
Yeah.
I would. If they play the Nets, I would
If they
definitely.
play the Raptors, what do you think?
I think it's a really great series.
For me, the Raptors have always been the hardest 5 games in the East, but they lose. Like, I think the Raptors would make any series tough, but they lose.
I'll tell you what, I would pick the Raptors in a 7-game series.
I'll take Heat. And if they play Cleveland, I'm taking Heat.
It's not like Nurse is a scrub coach either, so it would be really
Smoke clears.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who. Like, on the East, it doesn't matter.
But that's
Smoke
not
clears.
that's not my point. By saying that, I'm saying that it's not as if Spo is such a tremendously great
I think
coach
he is.
that
Nurse is a player coach.
But the thing is, even still, Nurse still gets the best out of his guys.
No, I get it. Nurse is a player coach, but in terms of the X's and O's schemes and all that, Spo clears.
I agree. But Nurse is not a scrub coach. Is what that was essentially my main point.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's still an L in that department.
Yeah, for sure.
I
I'm talking
think
about one of the best
most of
coaches
us-
in the NBA and spoke.
Most of us here are pretty low on the Heat. I recently become
most of
a
us.
member of it. I just jumped ship.
Oh, okay.
I'm not coming
Welcome-
back on it. I'm not. I'm
welcome to the
swimming,
team.
I'm swimming away.
That's one of his more respectable things.
No, I'm glad you
This
jumped
to
ship
make
before
it-
the playoffs.
To make it clear, I'm actually gonna just wait till the playoffs start to talk about the teams that I'm jumping ship on.
There we go.
just-
That's valid because I
Yeah.
don't want to hear it today, and then he changes that day. So
I
I'd
have
rather hear it
I have
then.
teams already in mind that I know that I'm gonna be on their
We need
ship.
the Bulls healthy, man. We need them healthy.